I'm glad to have a guest right here that she is a sterile processing tech for quite a few years, and her name is Britney.
So I used to be a dental assistant, and I moved states, and I was looking for a job, and my certifications didn't transfer easily, and I knew about sterilization because of working in a dental office, and so I actually found sterilization in a hospital setting on Indeed, because I didn't know about it before that. And then I got an interview, and I actually learned on the job. I trained on the job, and that was in 2018, and I've been doing it since then, and I actually really enjoyed it. So I used to be a dental assistant, and I moved states, and I was looking for
Yeah, that's nice, Britney. Can you tell us? This is something that maybe it comes to the mind of many techs. Why a person like you were back then in before 2018? You didn't know about sterile processing. Why do you think that happened? Why people doesn't? Sometimes many people, they don't know about sterile processing department or sterile processing techs or sterile procedures. Can you elaborate about that?
Yeah, I'm not really sure. It wasn't a program where I was going to school. And so obviously the jobs are out there. I'm not sure why it's not like a widespread thing that people just know about as a job option. I guess we probably need more programs across the country for this position. Because I know a lot of people that don't even know that this job exists. So I can only speculate as to why people wouldn't know about it.
Do you think that these programs are a benefit for people looking for a job, for people that might not know about it, but it can be beneficial for people in general and for the communities and for the healthcare industry?
Yeah, they can be. Especially for sterile processing, because there seems to be a great need for sterile processing techs. So if there were more programs available across the country that teach that, then it would be more widespread availability of techs for positions needed. I didn't do a program for sterile processing. I just learned on the job. I did a program for dental assisting. I didn't do a program for... The dental program was interesting, and it was kind of fun. I had to do basic coursework for my associate's degree for the first year. And then the second year was a lot of hands-on learning and classes to take to learn the specifics of the program and what you would do in an office setting, or I guess for sterile processing would be what you would do in a clinic setting or a hospital setting, right? So a lot of hands-on teaching and learning. It was good, but it wasn't the same as actually going out and doing it as a job. There were clinics. I had to go and do clinics, and that was good. And I really liked learning it, and I liked it in school, but I didn't like dental assisting as a profession. Dental offices, of course, use tools. They're like the mouth mirrors and the hygiene tools that are used to clean the patient's mouth. Are reusable, and they need to be sterilized between patients. So in a dental office, they have tabletop sterilizers, and they have tabletop ultrasonics. So the ultrasonics and the sterilizers are similar to ones used in hospitals, especially if the hospitals have smaller tabletop ones. Like ultrasonic in decon, they might have a small one, tabletop one, that they use for like eye instruments. Those are kind of the same ultrasonics they use for cleaning dental instruments. And so there are also smaller autoclaves, and dental offices use peel packs for individual instruments, like mouth mirrors and dental explorers and things like that. And this is just, I'm talking basic dentistry, not like endo or surgical. But I mean, there's lots and lots of dental instruments too.
Let me interrupt you again. When you said ultrasonic, can you describe what you are talking about? If you can give some detail for people that they be very interested about topics like this.
Well, let's see. Ultrasonic is a cleaning machine that has solution in it where, what's the word? It vibrates at a certain frequency that makes the liquid have bubbles and little implosions. Help me out with the word. What's the implosion word?
I think the word that you're looking for, they got in cavitation, right?
Cavitation.
Yeah.
I was thinking
it helps to remove debris that is stuck to the instruments.
It helps. Yeah, all the little bubbles pop and forces debris off of the instruments, like you said.
Now, can you explain what when you say autoclave, what you are talking about?
It is a big, dry steam oven that helps kill all of the bacteria and spores so that no one gets sick from any germs or anything.
Exactly. That's great, Britney. It is very interesting. You being in a journey that it started with, like many people, they're not related to the healthcare environment. And then through this program that you went through, you got related to it. And then you extend your horizons and, you were furthermore. What do you think a person in the way a person is and the personality, what do you think the abilities or even the qualities that a person has to have in order to work in the hospital environment first, and particularly in the sterile processing department?
It takes all kinds.
Can you elaborate on some, using your own experience? It is a very, very good example that you give us,
I think attention to detail and a quality-minded person would do best. You need to care about the work that you're doing because people's lives are at stake. You don't see the patient contact. You're not a patient care provider, but you are doing a service that directly affects the patient. So you have to have the attention to detail. You have to care about what you're doing. And so me personally, I'm a perfectionist. I'm very type A. And I feel like that helps me make sure that I do my best at work.
Being in the healthcare environment, I think you probably saw many procedures. Can you give us an example of a procedure that you were impressed about?
The first thing that came to mind was a leg amputation. I got to go into an OR and observe a leg amputation. It's a very big surgery for someone to get, obviously. And those are things, they use a lot of instruments in that surgery, and it gets messy. But those are things, they use things that maybe not me personally in that case, but that I clean and I package and sterilize, me and the team I work with. And in that moment, like that patient, they're counting on us to do our job. And I get to see how those instruments are being used and what they're for, and each tiny piece plays a part And so like you really have to make sure that each part is inspected and cleaned and paid attention to, because it's not just the sharp things or the hinged things. Each piece plays a part in this surgery, and they really do like, it's tons of stuff, and they really do use a lot of it in these big surgeries. And like, it's important to make sure, because this patient is going to wake up without part of their leg, and like, it's important that they have the best possible chance to move forward without like risk of infection and other complications, because they're already going to have a struggle moving forward, right? Like, not only physically but mentally, and they need to be given the best possible chance to do that in a healthy way. So
that's good. That's very interesting. It's very interesting. Britney, some people, some sterile processing techs, they don't experience being in a procedure, being present in a procedure and watch. Do you think being in procedures are good for sterile processing techs as an experience in their career? And tell us why you think not other institutions enforce the having the sterile processing techs be present at least once in a procedure. What is your mind about it?
I absolutely do think that sterile processors should observe some surgeries on occasion, because it gives us a better opportunity to see how certain things are used. Like, I can wash instruments all day long and package them and not know how they're used. It gives us a better understanding when we see them used of what they're used for and how they move and how they work. And when we know those things, then we have a better understanding of where to look for bioburden, debris, places that should move or come apart that maybe we wouldn't know just by looking at it. So it helps us clean and disinfect the instruments better, especially for things like ortho. They have these big multi-part instruments and trays that maybe don't so obviously look like they come apart, and they do. So it's easy to miss blood and bioburden and things inside things that don't look like they come apart. So knowing how things are used and actually seeing them in use, I think, is a great advantage. A lot of hospitals don't allow SPD techs to go observe on a regular basis. I think that they should, at least once or twice, maybe as like a learning thing. Because as I said, I think it's a great advantage for SPD techs to know how things work.
Excellent. Britney, you mentioned the word bioburden. Can you explain, what you mean by bioburden? It is a not very common word in the, with regular common people. Can you explain, I'm very sure that people would wonder, what bioburden? Oh my God.
Bioburden is biological debris such as blood or tissue that is left on instruments that we need to remove for the safety of the next patient. I started in a very small hospital and was trained on the job. And then the lady that trained me quit, and I was kind of running the department by myself. And that was more or less because, there are probably several reasons. The department was, HR was not paying SPD very well. And the head of surgical services was running SPD, and she was bending over backwards for doctors who didn't care about the SPD processes, and they just wanted what they wanted when they wanted it. And as techs, we have to be certified, and we have certain rules to follow, and procedures and things. And it just made the environment really difficult. So I was there and new by myself until they hired a manager a few months later. I mean, I like what I do, and it was okay for a while. My very first job, I was there for 3 years. So it was just kind of like a buildup of little things that gets frustrating, I guess. I don't know. When you like what you do, it takes a while for things to get at you. So I stayed there for 3 years. But like, not all SPDs are like that. I've always wanted to be in healthcare. But I've been more of a shy, quiet type of person, and I'm not really, I never really wanted to be a nurse. So I like her without the patient care part. So it lets me give myself to healthcare without having to do the face-to-face interaction, because of, like, I have social anxiety and things like that kind of hold me back a little bit. So it's kind of like a little spot where I can fit in there without having to push myself super out of a comfort zone, I suppose. When hospitals cater to doctors' whims, surgeons' whims specifically, at the drop of a hat, with no regard to sterile processing standards that are set forth by agencies like AMI and Joint Commission and things like that, it makes it difficult for techs who have to maintain a certification to do their jobs. Because I feel that if I did something or wrong or against certain standards, or put my name on something that was done improperly, like if a doctor wanted something flashed and then took it while it was hot and not in a proper pan because he wanted it right now, and then I had to put my name on that paperwork because the department said I had to do it and I was told to do it now, like, and I feel obligated to do that because I don't want to lose my job, then I have to do that. Well, if something happens to that patient and there's some sort of investigation and then my name is on there and then I lose my certification, that's a scenario that may not happen, but it could happen. And that makes me uncomfortable. I don't want to do things that I'm not supposed to do through my training and against my certification just because the hospital favors the surgeons because they bring in money. Like, my certification is my livelihood. Like, that's what I do for a living. So I want to protect it. But also, the hospital is a business and they care about making money. Surgery is a big money maker, so they tend to cater to surgeons. And it's actually something that's really, I didn't know before working in hospital settings, and now I do, and it's kind of an off-putting thing about healthcare.
Wow, that's very interesting. Now, another word that you mentioned, you said flash or flashing. Can you explain, what that you're talking about?
Flashing instruments is where they quick sterilize something, and it's not really for the length of time and that it's supposed to be sterilized for.
Would you say there is a shortcut to the real complete process?
That is an excellent way to put it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Flashing is a shortcut to the process.
Yeah. Britney, flashing is a word that nowadays the people working in a hospital environment, they're trying to avoid, especially
It's a dirty word.
management. Now they use other terms like immediate use, or
IUSS.
IUSS. And what do you think this is? Flashing is going to be flashing independently of how you call it.
Yeah, IUSS, immediate use sterilization, is still the same thing to me. They just dressed it up with a different word, really. And it's supposed to be done only in emergencies. But I've noticed that at some places, if a surgeon says this is for in the best interest of the patient, whether it is or not, then they'll just do it anyways, because the doctor said those magic words, and IUSS, there it goes. So they can call anything an emergency, or in the best interest of the patient, and all of a sudden it's an emergency in sterile processing, and they do it anyways. That doesn't mean that it really was an emergency. And just because they call it a different name this year as opposed to flashing 7 years ago, they're still doing the same thing. I mean, they built new containers for it to make it slightly better, maybe. So they're trying to make it a slightly better process, but it is what it is. It's still a shortcut. And I mean, in some cases, it is necessary. But I feel like that's few and far between. And not all places use it all the time. Different hospitals have different ways of going about things. So, I mean, it's not just one place, or it's not all hospitals that do this on the regular. I travel, so I get to see a lot of different facilities do a lot of different things.
That's excellent. And also earlier you mentioned two institutions, which is AMI and Joint Commission. Can you tell us about it briefly, about AMI and about Joint Commission?
Yeah, Joint Commission is an accrediting entity that accredits hospitals. So they go around, they're kind of like Big Brother. They keep hospitals in check. If they pass, the hospital gets accredited, but they go around, they check everything, processes, ceiling tiles. They want to know that the hospital is in shape, doing what it's supposed to, and in good condition for the sake of patients. AMI is, I should know the acronym, but it escapes me at the moment, is a book of policies and procedures for sterile processing, probably some other stuff, that lists what to do in every situation, including but not limited to sterile processes and things like room temperature and humidity for storing sterilized things, airflow in dirty rooms and airflow in clean rooms, and lots of other good stuff.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned the acronym, and I wasn't sure about it too. So I Googled it, and it says Association for the Advancement of Medical Instrumentation. And AMI, we all know that it gave us best practices, instructions, so we all know what to do. And some of those best practices are very, very close related directly to the Sterile Processing Department. That's great. So you mentioned about also something that people might be very concerned about it, Britney, about the pay, because like you said, you choose this career, this is going to be your livelihood. Tell me about pay, how you had experience being paid in this career.
Well, if you want me to be honest,
Yes.
The pay sucks. It needs.
Thank you for the honesty.
The pay is terrible. The Sterile Processing Department, I've heard it over and over again, is the heart of the hospital. But we aren't paid like the heart of the hospital. But we should be. And I think that's something that needs to be reformed and changed. We are so important to the functionality of not just surgery, but many clinics and other parts of the hospital. Surgery especially, cannot function without the Sterile Processing Department. And yeah, they could send other people to do the sterile processing, but they don't want to pay nurses to go do sterile processing. Like, they need us to do it. And they don't have to pay us like nurses, but they could do better. They could do a lot better. So, to be completely honest, I told my niece the same thing. I would not pay to go to school for sterile processing, given what you get paid when you get out. It's not worth it. If you can get school for free, then yeah, it might be worth it. I would not pay to go to a program to do sterile processing, which is unfortunate. We do need sterile processors out there. But if hospitals aren't willing to pay us for getting a degree or a certificate and maintaining our certification and the CEUs that we have to get every year, it's robbery.
Britney, tell me about your own experience. How do you manage? This is very interesting. I'm going to tell you why. Here is you, a person that you like in the healthcare environment, and then also you like the Sterile Processing Department and working in the Sterile Processing Department. However, you being paid not enough, as you said, tell me how you dealt with it at the beginning, how you kind of tried to increase your income from there, finding out that being in the hospital in the Sterile Processing Department, it pay some money, but not enough money to cover all your bills. Tell me your experience.
I've had a lot of ups and downs. I actually started working in the Sterile Processing Department for $10 an hour.
What year?
2018. Yeah. Like I said, it was a small hospital in Middle Tennessee. Okay, but this is 2018. Now Tennessee's minimum wage is still $7.25. And I took the job when I did. In the interview, I told the lady, I cannot stay on for $10 an hour. There's no way. But I'll take the position. So I did. Okay, and then I had a long drawn out fight with HR, like 6 months in. And then I got raised to like $12.46.
Wow.
Which is still nothing. And even though I wasn't living in like a big city or anything, $12.46 an hour. My 2-week paycheck was like $800. Okay, you can't live on that. I had 2 kids at home and single, like one income. It's atrocious. Okay, and the hospital at the time was owned by Tenova, and they don't care. I don't know what all is owned by Tenova, but whatever their policies is, I'm sure is what HR had to follow. And that was my worst experience ever. Who starts people out at $10 an hour at a hospital? It was appalling. Anyways, after some other arguments and things, and them hiring someone who had no clue what an autoclave was, after I had trained them and all that stuff, they hired her at more money than me after I worked there a while and other things. There was another argument with HR. I got raised to 16 something an hour. It was an issue. Anywho, after 3 years, I left there making 16 something an hour. But I digress. So that was no good. I worked in Chattanooga for a while. And I started at like 18 something. It was better, but not great. But I also had a long drive. I drove like an hour and a half to work. And like, I have to drive to the city to make, and that kind of money, like, only just barely sustained me for not living in the city. So if I were to live in the city that I worked in, I wouldn't make it because it costs more to live in the city. So I can only imagine people trying to live where they work. I know that they're not paying enough. So after that, I realized that I can't make ends meet, or I wasn't making ends meet, which is how I ended up going to traveling, which is what I'm doing now. Traveling is how I make ends meet. Both of my kids are graduated high school, so I can do that. But not everybody has that option. The pay in sterile processing is dismal, and it's not livable for people who have, well, single income for one. Like, I shouldn't have to be married to pay my bills. That's ridiculous.
Can you tell us about, you mentioned traveling. Can you tell us what it involves traveling? And basically what a travel agency, or just the agency, the simple word agency means?
It's not fair. You brought that up. So I am employed by a healthcare travel agency to fill sterile processing positions around the country. I take contracts at hospitals that need staff, usually about 3 months at a time. And I get paid. Usually the hospital pays by the hour, and then I get stipends for food and lodging and things like that, which pays better than hourly, like a full-time hourly position at an SPD. But I do not make what traveling nurses make, so don't even start thinking that. So yes, I have a recruiter, and this recruiter finds me positions, and I get offered a job, and I can sign with the contract at a specific hospital or not. And then I go there and I work whatever they tell me to work and do whatever they tell me to do until my contract is up, and then I find another one.
Wow. So when you are a traveler, when you take the travels and then you go to an assignment to a certain hospital, are you treated the same as the techs that are full-timers in the hospital? That's one, and that's one of two questions. And are you allowed to perform all the work that is required in the Sterile Processing Department? Tell us about that, according to your experience.
Okay. The first one. Am I treated the same? It depends on where you go. Now, some places love travelers. Some places treat travelers like dirt. And I don't mean like horrible, but some places, the other staff members look down on travelers because they're making more money than them. So they kind of give them like the cold shoulder and the stink eye and other things like that. But at the same time, we're filling a need. They would be short-staffed without us. And that means more hard work for them. And they would have to be doing overtime and spending less time with their families, or always be swamped or whatever. Not everywhere is like that. I think I've only been to 1 or 2 hospitals where the people are kind of snobbish about it. Most places have real nice people. Happy to have us, happy to have the help. A lot of hospitals, most of the time, are just happy to have employees. So the other question, most facilities, well, actually, it's kind of a mixed bag. I have been at hospitals where I've done everything I've sterilized loads as a traveler. I've done sterile storage and assembly and decon and testing of the equipment and writing down room temps and humidity and all of that. And I've been to facilities where I've done nothing but decon for the straight 13 weeks. And there's places in between where I can assemble or I can do assembly and decon. Assembly and decon are usually the two main ones, but I really like it when a place lets me switch it up. I like running sterilizers and I like sterile storage usually. Oh yeah, I've been to 2 places now where I've done case carts. I like that too. Anything that keeps me out of all the plastic wrap and decon.
That's great. Tell us about decon. What decon is the short name for decontam, right? Tell us about it.
Oh yes, decontamination. The room where all the dirty instruments come down from surgery, and the dirty instruments get dropped off from clinics and such. It's a very dirty room, bloody instruments and just dirty things from instruments used on patients come down and they have to get decontaminated. So they get cleaned off, sprayed off, soaked, and washed, and rinsed, put through washers.
Heavy work. Britney, to wrap it up, what will you advise to people? And starting with you would advise. Let's say you go back in time, and you see a much younger Britney, and then you start to talk to that much younger Britney and then you're talking to her and you said, Britney, this is the first step you got to take, and then explain us what would you advise to that younger Britney, starting with the first step that you advise in order to get into healthcare environment, healthcare industry, and specifically the Sterile Processing Department.
Skip it all, go to the nursing program because they make more money.
That's a great advice.
Despite some of the hardships of the sterile processing, what you do, and I do. So I think it's nice to find that little spot where you belong. And even though I've noticed that a lot of people just kind of fall into sterile processing, it's always like a good group of people. And no matter where I travel to, it always feels right. So yeah, I like what I do. And for people that are just looking for a place to fit into healthcare, but maybe nursing isn't for them, I would say that sterile processing might be a good place to look.
Great. Britney, so we conclude, and this is Hospital Tech Talks, and we presented Britney, our guest. She is a professional sterile processing tech. Thank you very much, Britney.
Thank you.
And you friends, I'll see you in our next program. Thank you very much. Thanks for tuning into Hospital Tech Talk, where we talk about the stories that keep our hospitals running smoothly, including the Sterile Processing Department. Remember, every instrument you process plays a role in patient care. Thanks for being part of our community. Together, we are making a difference, one instrument at a time. See you next episode.